It was supposed to be my dad's 65th birthday, the most memorable day of his life. In order to surprise him with the most significant gift, I had ever planned a journey back to Edinburgh, Scotland. To reconnect with our family roots, I had traveled all the way from Boston to Savannah, Georgia. However, a peculiar shiver raced down my back as I clutched the delicately wrapped trip itinerary at the majestic entryway of our family house, which overlooked Lake Mayer. Margaret, my mum, looked over the jammed living room and locked eyes with me. There was a chill in her gaze. On the contrary, they were like ice shards that sliced straight through me. "Jessica," she declared with conviction, capturing the attention of all those there. "We didn't anticipate your presence this evening." Her comments were as painful as a smack in the face. My mind went blank. "Mom, what on earth are you talking about? Certainly I am present. It's the birthday of Dad. You know your father deserves to celebrate with family, who genuinely care about his happiness, not just their own vanity projects. I'm afraid, Jessica, you are not welcome here tonight." She stepped forward, slightly raising her chin. I knew that posture, it always came before something devastating. Suddenly, my breath caught in my throat, and the entire room became silent, as all eyes widened in horror and shame at what had happened. My brother Daniel, who was standing next to his wife Emily, flat out refused to look me in the eye, his remaining silence speaking volumes. My voice quivered, rising to a whisper as I mustered the courage to speak. "Mom, I don't understand." I stammered, my humiliation and impending tears threatening to overwhelm me. I had a special plan for Dad. I thought it would mean a lot to him. Exactly, you planned. You always about yourself. Did you ever bother asking your father if he wanted your lavish gift? Margaret said in an authoritative tone, forcefully cutting me off. I looked around the room for any sympathizers among my long-lost relatives, but they all nervously averted their gaze, either to stare at the beautiful marble floor or their champagne flutes. A murmur of uneasy agreement echoed through the room. It was very evident in that stifling instant I was completely alone. My father stood by the hearth, his normally sturdy form somewhat bent, his eyes shaded by pain and bewilderment. He opened his lips to speak, but Margaret moved quickly to hide my view as my eyesight clouded from taking a deep breath. "Jessica, get out of here immediately. Immediately, you are destroying your father's special night." I felt a whirlwind of emotions, indignation, shock, and despair. But all I could do was ignore the words as they resounded brutally in my head and ears. With white-knuckled fingers, I clung to the envelope that held my priceless present. The weight of the stillness weighed heavily on me as I cautiously made my way to the entrance, each step seeming like a mile, and then I pushed open the elaborate wooden doors and stepped out into the cool night air of Georgia. The weight of betrayal was so heavy, it physically hurt. As I sobbed into the driver's seat, my body quivering from the intense emotion. Outside, I staggered down the driveway, barely reaching my car, before the emotional dam burst. How could someone from my own family treat me this way? What went wrong? What I didn't know at the time, and what none of us did, was that this hurtful rejection was going to trigger a series of events that would unearth long-buried facts and alter our whole understanding of family loyalty and love. I am Jessica Hamilton, a 30-year-old working woman residing independently in Boston, Massachusetts, who has worked tirelessly to attain the position of investment advisor at one of the city's leading financial firms. I am driven by a profound desire to demonstrate my value, not only to my family, but also to myself, From a young age onwards, I found it difficult to make sense of the complexities that came with my upbringing in Savannah, Georgia, amidst the picturesque moss-draped oaks and southern elegance at our family home, a magnificent mansion near the tranquil waters of Lake Mayer. This home represented wealth, sophistication, and a legacy steeped in prestige. George Hamilton, my father, has been my rock. Throughout my life, a revered history professor at Emory University, Dad has an air of quiet wisdom and composure that has always impressed me. He instilled in me the value of education, honesty, and compassion, and he never stopped supporting my pursuit of independence and ambition, no matter how far I roamed from home. Then there's my mother, Margaret Hamilton, a woman who is always the center of attention. With her graceful and composed demeanor, Mom is a social butterfly who works hard to keep our family's illustrious reputation in Savannah intact. However, beneath her perfect exterior, there's an unsettling need for control. I discovered early on that her love was conditional, and I struggled to gain her approval, which left me caught between admiration and insecurity. My mother's admiration for my older brother, Daniel Hamilton, never wavered. He was 4 years my senior and appeared to have an uncanny knack for succeeding at everything he set his mind to. From being a star athlete and top student to being a beloved peer, and now a highly regarded lawyer in our state, I can still hear the echo of Mom's comparisons. When I think back on my childhood, Jessica, why aren't you more like Daniel? In spite of our mother-instigated rivalry, Daniel and I managed to keep up a complex but generally amicable relationship. He was, after all, still my brother, and she never failed to flat out ignore my trophies, diplomas, and professional milestones in favor of gushing over Daniel's. His wife, Emily Hamilton, brought a unique perspective to the table. Emily was warm-hearted, sympathetic, and patient, and she frequently served as an emotional go-between for our family. Whenever tensions rose within our ranks, she was there to provide reassuring words of encouragement and compassion. For as long as I can remember, Dad has been very attached to the family line. His great-grandfather came to the United States from Edinburgh, Scotland, in the early 1900s, carrying with him a rich history and the fortitude to plant roots in a new country. Dad had mentioned the possibility of going back to Scotland to visit his family's ancestral home and learn more about our roots. Over the course of 2 years, I painstakingly plotted out the ideal birthday surprise for my father, an unforgettable trip back to Edinburgh that would serve as a symbol of our mutual love of history and a tribute to the special bond we shared, which had helped me endure the emotional estrangement from my family for so long. I never expected my mother to be so resistant as I planned our trip, reserving rooms with rich historical significance, organizing private tours, and meeting with historians from the start. Her sabotage was subtle at first, but soon became obvious. Emails were conveniently missed, phone calls were interrupted, and family meetings always clashed with my trips home to finish up the arrangements. Despite my mother's growing meddling, I remained optimistic and propelled by my profound admiration for my father. I could almost feel the pride he would feel as he walked the cobblestone streets of our ancient city, and the notion of his delight kept me going. Emily, who had always been the peacemaker, started to retreat as she sensed the conflict undercurrents, but didn't know how to navigate them. I hadn't realized the extent to which Mom had impacted Daniel. My brother, who had previously offered hesitant support, grew distant and dismissive. Our conversations became abrupt, strained by unsaid tensions and accusations. My mother's increasingly authoritarian control over family dynamics, Daniel's increasing disconnection, and my own subtle estrangement from extended family were all warning signs that I should have seen coming. But love, especially parental love, can obscure even the most apparent warning signs. As I stood on the steps of our family home that evening to celebrate my dad's 65th birthday, I had no clue that the painful rejection that lay inside would rock my very identity, making me face truths I had drew back from for so long, and redefining my beliefs about love, loyalty, and family. My well-intentioned journey to Edinburgh, meant as a sincere homage to my father, had mysteriously become a cause of intense family strife. How had my plans devolved into such a shambles in the days after that terrible birthday night? I studied emails, texts, phone records, anything to help me understand where things had gone wrong, and slowly disturbing patterns appeared. I was determined not to let doubt and bitterness engulf me, so I began retracing my steps, urgently seeking clarification. The trip-related emails I had sent to my dad had gone unreturned, which was strange because Dad usually responded so quickly and enthusiastically. But then I looked into it more and found something shocking. A lot of those messages had never even reached him because they had been deleted, redirected, or intercepted. A sinking feeling went over me as my suspicions gradually became into certainty. Mom, every new discovery was an even more devastating evidence of my mother's treachery, and my emotions fluctuated wildly between hurt indignation, disbelief, and pure wrath as Margaret purposefully blocked my contact. I called Daniel's number with shaking fingers, my nervousness growing with each ring. On the third ring, his voice whispered, "Jessica." I was still too scared to address her directly, so I reached out to him. I pleaded with Daniel, "We need to talk," my voice quivering with urgency. "Mom has been reading my messages. If you knew about this, you would know that something is very wrong. Jess, you seem to think the world is all about you." His voice was distant and icy when he finally spoke, after an uncomfortable gap. "Some people just won't buy into your lofty plans, and maybe you should just accept it." "Grand schemes," I said with astonishment. This was for Dad. It was all about him. "Perhaps it's what you imagined he desired," Daniel said with a heavy sigh, his impatience plainly visible. "Jessica, have you ever considered the possibility that this could be just driven by your needs?" He had twisted my gut with his allegation, and it hurt like hell. How could Daniel, my own brother, believe it? Mom had manipulated him more than I could have imagined. Emily, who is usually so kind and understanding, appeared wary and aloof. This time her customary warmth obscured by hesitation as I turned to her in my despair and isolation, hoping that she would understand, or at least assist bridge this growing divide. "Jess," she whispered over our coffee, her gaze averting mine. "It may be wise to give things some time to calm down. No one is getting along with anyone in the family. Perhaps everyone simply requires a little alone time." Emily, who is so kind and compassionate, was even recommending retreat, which made my heart sink even lower. The feelings of betrayal and loneliness were becoming more intense. In my determination to not give in to my mother's manipulations in any way, shape, or form, I had discreetly organized a return visit to Savannah to meet my parents face to face, with the intention of finally exposing the truth. But when I arrived unexpectedly, I saw something far worse than I had expected. As I made my way silently to the rear terrace, I could hear Mom's voice, clear, strong, and terrifyingly certain. The trip to Edinburgh has been postponed. Jessica has decided to step back. This is for the best, George. Family is a concept she has never grasped. As I carefully peered through the French doors, my heart froze. I beheld my father's glum expression and sagging shoulders, as well as Daniel's guarded posture and mute observation. Emily's anxious glances diverted her attention from the disturbing scene before her. As I faced them, my voice quivered with a mix of anger and betrayal. "What the fuck is going on here?" I said. Suddenly, everyone whirled around in shock. Mom's brow furrowed in annoyance, but she quickly concealed it with her composed demeanor. "Jessica, are you listening in on this now? How perfect." I turned my attention away from her insult and fixed it on my dad. "Dad, tell me honestly, were you even aware of the trip I was planning? Has Mom shared anything with you?" Dad's brow furrowed in perplexion. "Trip. Dad, Edinburgh," I let out a choked scream. "Past generations imagine it. Margaret said you didn't want anything to do with celebrating my birthday." He continued slowly, his confusion plainly visible in his head shake. Margaret strode forward with assurance, her voice piercing, and I felt my blood chill. "Jessica, your dramatics have gone too far. We respect your father's decision. It is what it is." As I silently pleaded with Daniel for support and acknowledgement, his eyes stayed icy and distant. My brother, the one person I had always thought would listen to me, quietly averted his sight. My body trembled with rage and sadness as I realized this deceit, this strategic treachery had deeper origins than I had anticipated. Margaret had painstakingly constructed a story to cut me off entirely. "I don't know what you've heard." I choked out my voice, quivering with pent-up emotions. "But every single thing I did was for this family, for you, Dad. My only desire was to pay tribute to you." Emily called my name uncertainly behind me, but I didn't pause. Not this time. I turned suddenly and walked away, tears streaming down my cheeks unbridled. My return to Boston was surreal. My flat was strange and lonely, and every room resounded with memories of broken trust, broken hopes, and betrayal. I began to doubt my family and my own identity. In the midst of the suffering, though, a truth started to surface. Margaret's grip was poisonous, her manipulations strong. She had turned love into a weapon, manipulating familial ties into tools of control, not one to let pessimism triumph. I made up my mind to go it alone to Edinburgh, to find clarity for myself and my father's unfulfilled dream. And this wasn't a decision based on vengeance, but on a quest for truth, identity, and in the end, inner peace. Unbeknownst to me, this solo excursion would reveal long-suppressed mysteries about my family's history, sparking disclosures that would alter not just our relationships, but also our identities and our conception of family. I arrived in Edinburgh to find gray skies and a persistent drizzle, which perfectly matched the turmoil I was experiencing inside. As I walked along the cobblestone streets, I could feel the weight of unmet hopes, the crushing emptiness of being completely alone, and the resolute will to find answers and reclaim my truth. Malcolm Fraser, a local historian, was taken aback by my quest for familial ties and offered assistance and company as I buried myself in the city, seeking insight and peace in its old libraries, quiet cafes, and historical sites. While we sat down to tea in quaint cafes and strolled along the ancient Royal Mile, Malcolm gave me advice and comfort, patiently leading me through genealogical records and historical archives. His genuine interest and kindness helped me feel safe enough to open up about my struggles. But even with Malcolm's unwavering support and the allure of Edinburgh, my heart was heavy. The more I learnt about my family tree, the more I felt betrayed by the people I cared about. On a particularly gloomy evening while sitting in Malcolm's favorite peaceful pub, my phone rang suddenly, Daniel's number flashing urgently. I was almost ready to answer when I suddenly paused and thought, "Daniel." Words tumbled out of his mouth in a flurry as he screamed. "Jess' mom's had an accident. At home, she had an accident that sent her to the hospital. It's not good. What happened?" "Is she okay?" I said with a twitching heart, my anxiety mounting as I fought to hold on to my mother, despite all the hurt she had caused. "Jess, she has been calling your name and she asked for you." "We don't know yet," Daniel said with a heavy sigh, his pain evident. A bolt of lightning hit with the words, setting fire to bewilderment, shame, and pent-up wrath. "Daniel, I don't know. Jess, please," he cried anxiously. "We need you here. Dad needs you. We all do. Please, just come home." Within hours after hearing his voice, which was filled with genuine passion and urgency, I was on a plane back to Savannah, my mind a jumbled mess. The odd quality of the meeting was intensified as I stepped inside the clean hospital room. My mother, who had rejected me with such a sneer just a few weeks before, was pallid and vulnerable as she laid there. She spoke in a shaky voice. "Jessica," her eyelids fluttered slightly as she extended a shaking hand. "Bless my heart." Her sincere and open expression of regret surprised me into quietude. Standing guard behind her dad's weary expression betrayed his profound concern, while Daniel and Emily stood nearby, clearly unsettled. Margaret, Dad softly prodded, "Tell Jessica everything. It's time," while drawing strength from inside, Mom nodded softly. "Jessica." I was incorrect, completely incorrect. I've always worried that I won't measure up or that I could lose you too. Our family and I were both engulfed by that terror. As she went on, her voice quivering and her words piercing through years of emotional barriers, I felt silent tears trickling down my cheeks. "I lied, I twisted, and I damaged you profoundly, Jessica, believing it would safeguard what I loved. I almost ruined it instead." The layers of hurt and confusion started to crumble as that moment of raw honesty cut through them all. The wrath I'd had in my heart for so long started to fade, and I felt genuine sorrow for the insecurity and terror that had motivated her. "Mom," I said quietly as I drew nearer, delicately grasping her delicate hand, "all I've ever wished for was to be loved, accepted, and seen for who I am, not for what you thought I should be. You are loved, Jessica, more than you know. Please forgive me," she said as she gently gripped my hand, her eyes sparkling with tears. Sincerity shone in Daniel's eyes as he cautiously advanced. "Jess, I allowed myself to be oblivious. You were right. I should have paid attention and trusted you. I apologize." Emily gave a sincere nod and smiled gently to reassure. "Jess, we've all let you down in our own ways, but we have arrived and we will not be defined by ignorance or fear anymore." As my father put a soothing hand on my shoulder and spoke to me in a soft but authoritative voice, I felt a comfortable presence. Jessica, family life isn't flawless. It may be chaotic and even hurtful at times. However, true power is found in confronting the truth side by side, regardless of how challenging it may be. I finally grasped the nature of genuine healing when I beheld my fractured yet united family in vulnerability in the hospital room. It demanded honesty forgiveness, and the strength to begin the process of rebuilding. Here we are at this great reckoning after months of intense fighting, sad betrayal, and agonizing disclosures. However, within the suffering, there were signs of potential for true healing. Our broken family started to slowly but surely put itself back together as I stood there clutching Mom's hand, and it became stronger, deeper, and more genuine than before. After all this suffering, we had arrived to the important realization. True family isn't defined by control, perfection, or expectation. The characteristics of a true family include tolerance, forgiveness, and most importantly, a love that can endure the worst of times. My family and I began a long and winding road to recovery in the weeks after my mother's injury. We had to be more vulnerable, honest, and attentive to our emotional scars, while Margaret's physical healing took place. It seemed somehow reassuring and bizarre to return to our family estate on Lake Meyer. What was once a symbol of tension is now a sanctuary for long overdue dialogue. We would assemble in the living room every night in the familiar surroundings and talk frankly, something we had previously avoided at all costs. The depth and astonishment of my mother's vulnerability never stopped moving us. As a result of the insights and clarity she gained from her continuing therapy, she was able to face her fears directly. As I watched this change, my heart became even more pliable, and I was able to forgive and trust again. At supper one night, when the sky became more subdued due to sunset, Dad smiled gently, and his eyes regained their glitter. My mind has been wandering, Jessica. It is still my desire to go to Edinburgh. Possibly, all at once this time, I felt a surge of warmth, and my heart swelled with optimism. Your son would absolutely like that, no doubt about it. I assure you, with a level of earnestness in his voice that I hadn't heard in a long time, Daniel enthusiastically leaned forward. Everyone should go. The family unit. Create new memories all at once. Mom was briefly unsure of herself before her resolve took over. Sure, she slowly agreed. That sounds good to me. As well, an opportunity to begin over, in order to rebuild in unity. Our joint decision sparked enthusiasm, which swiftly evolved into detailed preparations. Instead of being an individual chore this time around, getting ready was a party. Thanks to Emily's kind words of encouragement, Daniel and I were able to rebuild our relationship and develop new relationships based on understanding and respect for one another. At last, the day had come, and our entire family stood at the top of Edinburgh Castle, gazing out on the enormous metropolis below. As we traced the old stones that held centuries of history, our history, Dad's eyes shimmered with immense delight. With a gentle yet audible voice, Mom slid her hand into mine as she stood by my side. Please accept my utmost gratitude, Jessica. I am grateful for your bravery, tolerance, and mercy. You have shown me what it means to have a family. My response, Mom, all I ever wanted was this, was temporarily muffled by emotion, integrity, affection, and tolerance. It has been located at last. As Daniel approached, he put a kind arm around my shoulder. You gave us courage when we didn't even know we needed it, Jess. To have you as a sister brings me great pride. In the midst of the breathtaking natural beauty of our ancestral country, we felt a deep sense of appreciation and reconnected as the burden of previous disputes lifted. Malcolm Fraser quickly joined us, and we greeted him with open arms as a friend and mentor who had been there for me on my solo trip and is now sharing in our joy at the beginning of a new chapter in our family's story. Laughter reverberated around the table that night at a quaint bar in Edinburgh, and it helped mend wounds I never thought were conceivable. To family not defined by perfection, but by our willingness to grow, to forgive, and to love deeply, Dad said as he steadily lifted his glass. In a show of solidarity and sincere accord, we all lifted our glasses. I knew then and there that our family's experience had changed us forever in that very simple moment. After facing our worst fears and facing our darkest truths, we came out the other side more united, wiser, and stronger. Once back in Savannah, everything began to fall into a nice groove. As a result, family dinners became frequent get-togethers characterized by open dialogue and real laughing. Margaret kept up with her therapy sessions, being honest about her struggles and helping our family grow closer emotionally. The bond between Daniel and Emily deepened, and their encouragement was crucial to our emerging solidarity. Now that I have a solid family base to lean on, I feel much more confident in my work as an investing advisor. My long-cherished sense of emotional autonomy and the intimacy I treasured so much were now exquisitely bound together. I felt deep appreciation for the difficult but essential trip we had gone through months later, as we commemorated another milestone, a peaceful family supper at home. Our wounds, which now represent strength and development, served as a reminder of the strength that comes from being open, honest, and loving without conditions. An important lesson from our family's history is the need of being brave, humble, and accepting of one another's flaws in order to form true relationships. At its essence, family isn't defined by blood or tradition, but by the deliberate decision to be there for one another through thick and thin, and to come out on the other side stronger than before. Our lives started to settle into a soothing routine of true connection and emotional honesty after our life-changing family vacation to Edinburgh. Two unforeseen things happened shortly after, though, and they enriched our family's path to recovery and development even more. Malcolm Fraser proposed a trip to Savannah one bright afternoon. Everyone in our family felt the weight of history when we welcomed him into our house. A rare chance for introspection and fresh viewpoints presented themselves during Malcolm's stay. While here, he enlightened us with tales of other families he had met via his historical studies. These families had faced hardships quite similar to our own. The stories of resolving conflicts within families touched us all, and we could feel the empathy and understanding of those around us. Family histories are complex tapestries woven with threads of love, conflict, and resilience. What defines us isn't the absence of struggle, but our courage to confront challenges together. Malcolm spoke thoughtfully on his final evening with us. Sitting comfortably in our garden, his words became an enduring lesson, affirming our family's ongoing commitment to openness and emotional honesty. Not long after that, something else significant happened, something that put our newfound relationships to the test. Mom had another health scare, not as serious this time, but still emotionally devastating. When a routine checkup revealed possible health problems, she was paralyzed with fear and anxiety, and quickly retreated into her old habits of emotional isolation. One peaceful afternoon, I saw the warning signals and approached my mother with a kind request. "Mom, please don't shut us out again. Let us be here for you." Her reluctance transformed into a subtle display of vulnerability really quickly. She said, "Jessica, I am absolutely terrified," her eyes welling up with tears, "doomed to lose what we've worked so hard to restore. I am utterly terrified of regressing." Our family gathered around her in a circle of strength and comfort, and we all spoke frankly about our worries, concerns, and dreams, strengthening the bonds we had worked so hard to build. This open discussion deepened our friendship and taught us all the value of being vulnerable, especially when faced with the unknowns of life. Thanks to Mom's health crisis and Malcolm's perceptive visit, we got some strong clarity. Our family's power came from facing challenges head-on, supported by one another through thick and thin, and not from running away from them. These two unanticipated parts of our family's story became crucial pieces strengthening our resolve to true comprehension and everlasting love. Looking back on our family's incredible adventure, I've realized how important it is to learn from our mistakes. The lessons I learned from our tale are applicable to everyone's life and include priceless truths. I first realized how important it is to be truthful. In the end, trust and closeness are weakened by deceit, regardless of its motive. Honesty is the lifeblood of true relationships, even when it hurts to face the truth. The hardest part of mending as a family came when we bravely admitted the things we'd buried for a long time. The second thing that happened was that I realized how powerful forgiveness is. To forgive is not to ignore or downplay wrongdoing, but to make the conscious decision to let go of anger and bitterness so that reconciliation can take place. Forgiveness of my mother broke the cycle of hurt and allowed for true reconciliation in my family and in myself. Thirdly, setting and sticking to appropriate limits become crucial for happy partnerships. Protecting one's mental health and fostering relationships based on mutual respect rather than dominance and fear are both accomplished via the establishment of healthy boundaries. In order to repair our family dynamics, encourage better communication, and foster mutual respect, learning to say no gently but firmly was essential. I also learned that being vulnerable is a prerequisite for resilience. Real strength comes from facing one's fears, pain, and difficulties head-on, not from trying to hide or be flawless. We became closer than we ever thought possible as a couple because we were both prepared to face our flaws and experience greater emotional closeness. Our trip also taught us how important it is to be emotionally independent. Family ties are important, but everyone also needs to work on becoming strong and self-aware. I was able to better handle family conflicts as a result of my own path to professional and emotional independence, which eventually strengthened family bonds through understanding and respect. Most importantly, we learned from our experiences that blood and tradition aren't the only factors that define a family. Being consistently kind, patient, and loving is the surest way to build genuine family ties. The link between family members becomes stronger with time and via intentional actions taken together. Last but not least, it is impossible to exaggerate the need of professional help while dealing with emotional complexity. My mom and our entire family were able to get the understanding and skills for true emotional growth and healing via therapy. It takes bravery to recognize the complexity of human relationships and seek professional help, not weakness. We were able to rebuild our family's strength and togetherness by using these lessons. Being honest and forgiving, setting boundaries, being vulnerable, being emotionally independent, actively connecting with others, and seeking professional treatment. These skills may be used in any setting to foster better connections, whether it's at home with family or at work. In the end, our family's story serves as a powerful reminder that genuine love can endure and conquer great obstacles. Adopting these realities allowed us to move past our hurtful history and into a brighter future, one that is filled with genuine relationships and a better grasp of our shared experiences. Our family has been healed, and we have gained lasting lessons from this trip. We will be stronger and wiser than before to weather the inevitable storms of life together.